Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It is so good to be back. It is so good to see everyone. Hello, how are you doing today? What are the topics we can talk about? Well, I'll be honest, this week has not been the most crazy, the most eventful week in the video game industry, right? It seems like we've had tons and tons of big news in recent weeks, but this week has actually been a little bit on the lighter end. But there is, of course, as always, still things to discuss in the video game industry. So I would say the biggest thing that came out of this week, the potentially most interesting aspect, is going to be a new report from Jez from Windows Central that Game Pass has now crossed 23 million subscribers. That is a very impressive milestone. That's a huge boost over the last numbers that we got out of Microsoft. I think it is very important to note, I want to be very clear that Microsoft themselves have not announced this number. But I find Jez to be very reliable. He's going to be one of the best reporters out there whenever it comes to Microsoft. So I think we can go with this as pretty likely for being true and worth talking about. So 23 million subscribers for Game Pass. That's up from 18 million in January. So we're looking at basically a jump of 5 million subscribers in only about 3 months. That is incredibly impressive. We're talking over a million new subscribers a month, right? That is a crazy pace. So we can talk about that, how they've been getting this really fast engagement with subscriber growth, what it might mean for the future, expectations around where they might be in total subscribers at the end of the year or next year, really whatever you want with that. And then another piece of information that came out this week, we have Jim Ryan coming out and stating that the PlayStation 5 is going to have more exclusive games than any prior PlayStation generation. So kind of, I think putting that positivity out there after all of the, maybe more negative PR that's been going on in recent weeks. I think it's a good idea that Jim Ryan came out, said something like that, kind of reassuring to the fan base for PlayStation. So he's saying that more exclusives on PlayStation 5 than on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3. So we can talk about that. Maybe what their release schedule might look like, what games potentially could be coming. And then, of course, also this week we have previews dropping from media for Returnal. We're seeing some nice spikes on social media for interest in that game. So we can talk about that, sales expectations for Returnal or whatever. For anyone, if this is your first time ever being part of my live chat, basically the way this works, you drop your comments, you drop your questions down into chat, and I get to as many as possible. Two ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the free method. It works exactly how it sounds. You just type a question, drop it into chat, and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can per chat. However, if you want to 100% guarantee that I get to your question, the way to do that is going to be the super chat option. You just type in a donation for whatever amount you want. I get an alert and I get to super chats immediately, right? They get priority because that's what you pay for. But don't feel pressured or obligated or anything like that to donate into chat, because I do hit as many free questions as I possibly can. But this stream, this show, it is driven by you. So drop your comments, drop your questions into chat, and let's get rocking. I already see a whole bunch of stuff. We already have multiple super chats, so let me start hitting those. First, we have a 2 from Timmer72299, as always, every single chat, saying no question today, just wanted to show my support. Thank you so much, Timmer. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Keep rocking, man. Keep digging up all that goodness over on Twitter, and you're doing a great job. Thank you, Timmer. We have a 2 here from Split End 89, best mod in the business. What is up, Split End? Saying, how good is Returnal looking, huh? Yeah, let's talk about this really quick, right? So Returnal was one of those games that I think me and many people were a little, I don't want to say like concerned, but a little questioning how that game might perform. It's a next gen only game, right? Which I know we're in current gen now, but I'm still going to be using next gen probably for the next like 6 to or months or so, because so many people don't have the new consoles yet that, yes, I know technically PS5 and Series X and S are now current gen, but for a lot of people, they haven't made that transition yet. So me, and also if you notice, many like publishers and stuff are still referring to these new consoles as next gen, just because that install base isn't huge yet. But it's one of those next gen only games. There's only so many PlayStation 5 consoles that have been sold. It's a brand new IP. It's $70. It's from Housemarque, a studio that is not known for AAA games. So there was really just a lot of questions around this game, right? How's it going to sell? How's it going to perform? Well, of course, we still have those questions. However, I will say that previews from media that are coming out overall are very positive. In fact, I think more positive than maybe some of us were expecting. And I'm also saying, I just sent out a tweet, I think it was yesterday, that the Google trends are looking really good, right? You're seeing a nice spike before launch, which is what you want to see, right? It's a little alarming if like you're heading into launch and all of a sudden your Google searches, which is just one metric, but it is actually pretty valuable metric because it shows how many people are going out and searching out for your game. If that's kind of just flatlined right before launch or even dipping a little bit, that's a little bit of a cause for alarm. It means you're not getting that lift of buzz. But Returnal's having a nice spike. In fact, it's hitting the highest searches it's ever had right now, which is good, right? Because you got to think that's higher than the reveal. That's higher than, maybe some of the new trailers that came out over recent months. So the fact it's putting up its best numbers ever, that's encouraging. Now, I'm still not expecting Returnal to be like this gargantuan hit, right? I want to make sure people are cautious. I don't go out there and expect, this game's going to sell, millions of units day one. I don't think that's going to happen. However, I will say I'm feeling more optimistic about it than I was. And if reviews come in solid, right, if this can manage like an 80s Metacritic, I think Returnal could be in a very good spot. Yeah, because there's not a ton for your PS5 right now, right? There is some big stuff coming. Resident Evil 8 Village is right around the corner, and that's tracking to be a juggernaut. So, there is that, but it does have that PlayStation exclusive branding. So I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling good about Returnal. Kelligrim, what is up, Kelligrim? Haven't seen you in chat for a while. Good to see you, man. A 5 here from Kelligrim. Sup, Benji? I'm back on day shift. Sweet. We've missed you here in chat. Quick question. Do I buy Mass Effect Legendary Edition on PS4 or wait for a PS5 for the full enhanced effect? So, honestly, I think on this one, if you can't get a hold of a PS5 yet, you're probably fine on PS4 because from what it sounds like, the next gen versions aren't super enhanced over the last gen. I think the main difference from what has been reported is that it will offer higher frame rates. I think 60 FPS on Series X and PS5, whereas I'm pretty sure it's still just 30 on PS4 and Xbox One. But visually, as far as at least I've heard, I believe they're going to be very, very similar between generations or almost the same. It seems like the main advantage the next-gen consoles are going to have is that they can run a higher frame rate. So that is a nice bonus for sure, right? Being able to play it at 60 FPS. However, like I said, it's not necessarily like a game-changing difference in terms of visuals and stuff like that, and content's going to be the same. And who knows, with PS5s when more will be available. So I think you're okay buying that one on last gen, to be honest with you. If you're really excited for it and you want to play it, I don't think that's one where it's like, oh, you have to wait. The next gen version is just like so much better. Not one of those cases. You should be fine on PS4. A 5 here from Plastic Hearts Podcast. Benji boy, what is up, Plastic Hearts Podcast? Thank you for the 5 super chat. It's great to see ya. Big Fresh 37 with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Big Fresh. Thank you so much. How is sales potential looking for Returnal? Oh, we just started talking about that. Do we need to be worried for Housemarque if it doesn't hit? This is an interesting wrinkle to add on to that. Considering their past sales trouble, they seem like a dev that could really use Game Pass. This is actually a very interesting wrinkle because, just a minute ago I was talking about how the metrics are starting to look pretty positive for Returnal. But let's look at this in a potentially bad scenario, just because Big Fresh does bring up a good point. Housemarque's last like 2 games financially have not done well. Now, quality wise, they've been very well received, but in terms of like commercial level success, it hasn't gone very well for them. Okay, they've been in a lot of trouble in terms of like how much they're selling. In fact, so much so that Housemarque as a studio was talking about how they might not be able to make the kinds of games that they like to make, these kind of bullet hell type shooters moving forward. They were in fact talking about we're going to have to change some things as a studio. They were talking about how they might have to pursue doing multiplayer projects over some single player stuff. So yeah, they were not in a great spot, but then Sony came in and basically funded Returnal from what it sounds like and gave them this opportunity to make this game. And in fact, the biggest game they've ever made, right? They staffed up to the largest team size they've ever had. This is the first game that they've described as a AAA project coming out from this studio. So I do think it's a very good point, Big Fresh, that yes, they do need this to be a success. If somehow Returnal does miss, like let's say it gets bad reviews, or let's say it potentially doesn't sell well, yeah, this is a scenario where Housemarque could be in a lot of trouble, just because it wouldn't be like one game that hasn't found that commercial success. It would be multiple in a row. I don't think it means like, oh, that studio is going to go under, that they're dead, because clearly they've got a proven track record in terms of quality, but they might have to change some things up. Yeah, they might have to really move away from that bullet hell type gameplay, because even Returnal incorporates that, right? It's different in that it's third person, it's more cinematic, there's a lot more story to it, but the ground foundation of the gameplay is still built around that like crazy projectiles everywhere, dodging like crazy kind of bullet hell gameplay. I would say if Returnal misses, they need to completely abandon that. I'll be honest with you. And I hope it doesn't, right? I'm rooting for Returnal. I hope it does really well. And I know these are the kinds of games that studio likes to make. But if it were to miss, I would completely abandon that gameplay. I would go for something totally different, just because you've had multiple in a row now that aren't finding that market. All right, Plastic Hearts Podcast here with a 10. Thank you so much, Plastic Hearts Podcast. That's your second super chat right off the bat. Holy cow. With movie streaming possibly adding to PS Plus and testing in Poland, is Sony setting up a similar plan to how WB released content on HBO Max? Sony produced shows / movies coming to PS Plus for free. We talked about this. It's funny, Plastic Hearts. We talked about this in one of my previous chats before, when someone was asking, how can Sony, they've kind of hinted that they have some sort of Game Pass competitor type thing coming, and how we've talked about them expanding with like Crunchyroll and Funimation, going even more in that anime space. And one thing we did mention, a different element that they have that Microsoft doesn't, is yes, this investment into movies, TV shows, things like that. And that could be an attractive part of whatever they have coming. I would say it is potential that this could become a bigger thing, but I think there's one thing worth noting as well, and that is that Sony has actually recently signed not one, but 2 streaming contracts with other companies. First of all, they have a deal with Netflix, where movies like Uncharted, Spider-Man, whatever, et cetera, that kind of tier 1 post-release from the movie theater, they're going to go to Netflix. We also now have a new announcement that they're also going to be bringing some of their movies to Disney Plus, right? Stuff like the old Spider-Man movies and things like that, Jumanji, are going to be coming over to Disney Plus. So, you know what, Plastic Hearts? For a minute, I was kind of thinking like, oh, they might really go all in on their own dedicated streaming platform. But the fact that they're making these deals with other companies tells me that they're not fully there yet, right? Like, if you were really planning on a very big move with PlayStation and your own streaming strictly around media, I'm not sure you would sign that Netflix and Disney Plus deal, right? So I think we need to keep an eye on this. I think this is a thing that could be like an added perk with, PlayStation Plus or PS Now or something down the road. but I don't think they're going fully into, we're going to have like a big, huge streaming service, right? We're going to have like a competitor to Netflix, a competitor to HBO Max, a competitor to Disney Plus. I don't think they're headed that direction because these were long-term deals they signed with Netflix and Disney Plus. So it's probably just going to be more like an added wrinkle. A 10 here from Benji. Thank you so much. The super chats are already hitting off the chain right now. Thank you so much, everyone. Benji here with a 10. Hi, Benji. It seems Sony and Jim Ryan addressed their communication after the bad buzz of the last few weeks. I agree. PS Store for legacy platforms saved. Pledge for strong exclusive support. New strategy. Benji, I completely agree with you. And I actually don't think this is an accident, right? Like this to me feels like a complete, they are addressing, the situation. It was a big deal, okay? We talked about this, I think, in the last live chat that, they weren't in a scenario where Sony was doomed and, like some people were kind of proclaiming, right? You saw some really hot takes on social media, like Sony's in huge trouble. They have to make radical changes. They're in so much trouble. None of that's true, right? They did have a few weeks of bad PR. Stop filming me. Sorry. They did have a few weeks of bad PR, but anyways, sorry, got distracted there for a minute. They did have a few weeks of bad PR. However, they have clearly come around to address that. They've made some very strong announcements. First of all, let's talk about this in terms of the exclusive stuff via Jim Ryan. Here's the deal, okay? They only have currently so many studios, so many teams, and some of them are going to take a while to get off the ground. So I think this is going to be interesting how they do this, right? So I think part of their strategy, clearly from what we can see, is signing these deals with third-party teams, right? So it's important to note Jim Ryan didn't just specifically mention, hey, we're going to have more exclusives than ever before just out of first party, though I'm sure that is the goal. He just said more exclusive games in general. You see stuff like Forspoken signed as exclusive for at least 2 years from what it appears. You have things like Final Fantasy 16. You have stuff like that deal that they just made with that multiplayer studio filled with like Bungie vets. You had that deal with Jade Raymond's new studio. Like they are doing a lot of stuff, right? So I think part of what Sony's plan is to organically build up their first party teams. We are seeing like basically everyone staffing up. Sony Santa Monica is staffing up. Media Molecule is staffing up. Guerrilla Games is staffing up. I'm not sure how much Insomniac is or not. I haven't paid super close attention, but I'm sure even they are a bit, right? So clearly they're organically growing their own teams. Naughty Dog's doing a bunch of hiring. But also, I think one way to expand this is Sony's being very aggressive with third parties. I mean, even Returnal is a third-party game, right? It's exclusive. Sony's the publisher, but it's being made by Housemarque. Same thing with Benji-Sales, right? That's a third-party team. It's Bluepoint. Now, I know that they have a long history together, and Bluepoint's been making PlayStation exclusives for a while, but they're not owned by Sony. So I think that's one way that Sony's going to really pad out their release schedule as their teams get, bigger, as they get more comfortable with PlayStation 5. You're going to see a lot of third-party exclusive games. And yeah, it was good. It was good for them to come out. It was good for them to talk. Yeah, and I know a lot of people are like, where's Ratchet? I think once Returnal releases, you're going to see a lot of marketing for Ratchet and Clank. I think they're just kind of trying to focus on Returnal right now since it's about to release. RRD here with a 2 super chat. Interested in the gunk? And how's MLB doing on Game Pass? RRD, I'm definitely interested in the gunk. And in regards to MLB, I've been keeping an eye on it on the Xbox Most Played list. It's doing pretty well. We're not looking at an Outriders situation. Outriders friggin' blew up on Game Pass as well as just, most played games. MLB has been a bit of a slower climb. However, it is doing well. Last I looked, it was ahead of FIFA on the Xbox most played list in the US. Now, obviously not in Europe. But I think it's doing well on Game Pass, but it's definitely not having anywhere near the impact Outriders did. Like, nowhere near, especially, internationally. But in the US, I would say MLB has been a nice addition. It's not been, like, super low on the most played list. It's up in, like, the top 30 games. But, yeah, it's not hitting that crazy, like, top 3 like Outriders did in, like, tons of markets, right? Outriders blew up all over the place on Game Pass. It was like top 3 in the US, top 3 in Brazil, top 3 in the UK, top 3 in Spain, like all over the world, right? MLB has been solid, but not an Outriders situation. Ralph Muster here with a 5. Thank you so much, Ralph. Hi, Benji. Harvest Moon charted last month in Germany. It made me think how it did in the US. Any information to share? So I haven't seen a whole bunch of data on Harvest Moon, Ralph. Here's what I'll say. To me, at least from what I've seen in the US, there has definitely been interest. I think it is performing okay. However, it doesn't look to me like Harvest Moon has been like a breakout, right? It doesn't, at least from the data that I've seen, it doesn't look like this one kind of blew the franchise up or anything like that. I don't think it's been a bomb because there's definitely been interest. There has definitely been, quite a bit of people buying the game. But I would say it's kind of just keeping in line with the franchise. This one didn't seem, at least in the US, I can't speak for worldwide. It doesn't seem like it took the franchise to the next level, right? Like this huge jump in interest. I'm not seeing that. Ooh, this is a fun one from Franklin Clinton 98. Franklin Clinton 98 with a 550 super chat here. Thank you so much, Franklin Clinton. Prediction time. Do you think Returnal can outsell Demon's Souls in the long run? Oh, this is fun. You know what, Franklin Clinton? Let's go hot take. If this game is good, yes. If this game is good, I think it's possible because here's the thing, y'all. Demon's Souls hasn't been a giant seller. I'm just going to be honest with you. Demon's Souls has done well. In fact, it's still placing in the top 10 on PlayStation 5 in regards to the most downloaded games. However, Demon's Souls hasn't been like this enormous, it's selling just a ridiculous attach rate. For example, like, and I don't think anyone expected it to perform better, but like Miles Morales has been far more successful than Demon's Souls, right? Not even close, even just on PlayStation 5. However, of course, I don't think anyone expected Demon's Souls to sell as well as Spider-Man. So I'm not telling you that that's bad. Oh, Demon's Souls didn't sell like Spider-Man did. It was unlikely to ever do something like that. But it also hasn't been like a giant breakout. It's just done kind of well. Returnal to me feels like a game that can radically go either way. But what I mean in terms of it has potential, I don't think Returnal is going to be as hard as Demon's Souls, first of all. So, I mean, the fact is, y'all, as big as Souls games are with some people, they also heavily turn certain people away. Because some people just want to be able to play and beat a game. Like, they don't want to get hard stuck on games. So that no matter what, no matter how big a Souls game gets, it's always going to limit your audience, right? Like, I don't think we're ever going to see a Souls game sell 20 million units or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe it does happen, but like it's going to limit you no matter what. You can have a huge success, but you're not going to go to crazy levels. I don't think Returnal is ever going to do 20 million either, but I think if Returnal is good, it's a third-person shooter, which people love. I mean, let's just look at the statistics. People love third-person games. It does seem to have quite a bit of a focus around narrative, which we've seen. The PlayStation user base really, really likes these story-based games. So if it's really good, it could perform potentially better than a Demon's Souls. But I'll tell you what, Returnal's a major wild card. I have no confidence in predicting that at all, especially because Demon's Souls quality was extremely high, and we still don't know. The early buzz on Returnal's good, but you never know. Maybe reviews come in and this hits a 70s meta. I'll tell you right now, I think if Returnal hits 70s on Metacritic, there's no way it outsells Demon's Souls. Like, it needs to be like a very well-reviewed game, just because it still is that, roguelike bullet hell type game that could limit it. So it's a massive wild card, but my answer would be if it's really, really good, it's not impossible. It's not impossible just because the Demon Souls hasn't set an incredibly unrealistically high bar. Killian Butler here with a 5 super chat saying, hey Benji, I don't have any questions, just wanted to say hi. Thank you so much, Killian. Thank you so much. Right above that, I'm going to go to the next super chat. JCat saying LOL WTF, and Ryan Gerald saying, Benji, realize this whole thing is being recorded, right? Anyone that saw me look over, it's because my wife was filming me. That's what that was whenever I looked away and said, don't film me. It wasn't you guys. I know we're being filmed. My wife stepped in the room and she whipped out her camera and was filming me for a second. So kind of distracted me, right? Lost my train of thought for a second. So that's what that was. It wasn't me talking to you guys. It was me talking to my wife. Kellegrim said, LOL, the Mrs. Benji must be trolling. Yes, that's exactly what it was. That's literally exactly what it was. She caught me off guard. She snuck in here and whipped out her camera and started filming me. I was like, whoa, I'm thrown off here. RRD here with a 2 super chat. Would you rather a game be exclusive or in Game Pass? Oh, this is actually a great question here, RRD. This is a great question. A game be exclusive or in Game Pass? Well, here's the thing, RRD. I think moving forward, they're one and the same. Even third-party games, right? No matter what, if Microsoft is your publisher, you're going on Game Pass. So I guess the only wrinkle here that could potentially have a game be exclusive to Xbox but not be in Game Pass is if Xbox themselves does not publish it. But I mean, here's the thing. I think they're going to push for that no matter what. Okay, even if technically you don't get that publishing label on Microsoft, I have a feeling that their deals mostly moving forward is going to be if you're exclusive on our platform, you're on Game Pass. So I think they're one and the same. If I had to choose, right? Like if someone was outright against it, like they're like, listen, we will sign an exclusivity deal. We will only be on Xbox, but we're not going to be in Game Pass at all. I actually think it's a bigger deal for Microsoft to be in Game Pass because I'm telling y'all, Game Pass is Microsoft's future, okay? That doesn't mean they're abandoning Xbox consoles, right? We say this every time that we talk about the future as Game Pass. Like, no matter what, they are going to still have consoles for a very long time. They're still going to build that Xbox brand up for a very long time. But their focus is on how can we get Game Pass as many subscribers as possible. Because if they can keep this growth rate they're on right now, the amount of revenue that's going to come in through Game Pass will be astronomical. It will be higher than at any point in time that they've ever had for any of their years in selling games, right? They're going to be making more money just through Game Pass than they were selling tens of million units of Halo, okay? That's how big Game Pass can potentially become for them. So, yeah, if I had to choose, like, be exclusive but not on Game Pass, or just be on Game Pass, I'd say Game Pass. From Microsoft's point of view, Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass. Plastic Hearts here with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much. I think that's your second or third. I think that's your third, actually. Thank you so much, Plastic Hearts. You can answer at the end of the stream since some don't like MMA talk. Oh, well, who cares? I'm answering it right now. Who you got for the big 3 UFC title fights this weekend? Okay, we're hitting MMA talk, y'all, but it's not going to be long, so chill. Just relax. Huge card this weekend, right? Huge card. 3 championship fights. And I'll tell you what, both, I think, of the of the women's competitive fights are going to be very competitive. I really, really, really think so. So first, let's go to that main event. You got a rematch between Kamaru Usman and Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. You know, this is a rematch of a fight that happened last year. And I'll tell you what, I think that the same guy is going to win in the rematch. I think I'm going to pick Kamaru Usman. He just looks so good, so dominant overall, right, through his whole career. And I think he just keeps looking better. So I'm picking Kamaru. I think that Jorge is going to make it a heck of a fight. I mean, he's super talented. He's coming in now, not on a short notice. So I think it will be a good fight, but I can't pick against Kamaru. I think Kamaru is going to win via decision. I think Jorge is too tough for Kamaru to finish him. So I think decision there. Between, oh my goodness. Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade. I'm going to go Shevchenko. You know, it's hard for me, again, to pick against the champion in this one. Shevchenko is just a beast. I mean, I think she might be the most technically talented woman in all of MMA. Of course, pound for pound, you're probably going to put Amanda Nunes ahead of her because Amanda Nunes has beaten her twice, right? I'll be honest, I think Shevchenko won the second fight. But no matter what, at the end of the day, Amanda Nunes got the decision on both of them. But it can be heavily argued that just in terms of pure technique, that Valentina is ahead of her. And I actually do think so. So I'm going to pick Valentina, but she's got to be careful because Jessica Andrade has brutal power. And then for the last title fight, Wei Li versus Thug Rose. I'm going to pick Wei Li. I'll tell you, I'm picking all three champions, which means I'm going to get one of these wrong, right? At least. It's very rare you're going to see all three champions win. But again, I'm going to pick Wei Li. But this is the one of the three I'm most nervous about in terms of being right, because Thug Rose is nasty, right? She's a former champion herself. She has beautiful, crisp striking. But I just think the power and the pace, particularly of Wei Li, might be too much, especially in the late rounds, okay? Early is Thug Rose's best chance. Those first 2 to 3 rounds, if she can really put that power on her and really land some of her clean striking, that's going to be her opportunity to win the fight. But Thug Rose does fade a little bit later in the fight, and Wei Li, like we've seen, her pace is unbelievable. So if this goes past, I would say the second or third round, this is Wei Li's fight to lose. All right, MMA answers are done. Okay, everyone? Back to video games. So sorry for people that don't like MMA. Vertical 21 here with a 10 super chat. Thank you so much, Vertical 21. Saw a rumor about an open world Gran Turismo game in development. That is very interesting. I haven't heard this, but that's interesting. The rumor seems baseless, but it got me thinking. Horizon is huge, and PS players are thirsty for a game like that. That is literally true. I have seen, listen, Forza Horizon is a console seller. It really is. Like, there are people, what's interesting is that racing overall, like when you look at the whole picture, isn't quite as big in many ways as it was at one time. However, the Forza Horizon series in particular has become a behemoth. Forza Horizon's bigger now than regular Forza. And we're talking it has had over 20 million players, y'all, for Forza Horizon 4. That's insane. So, and I have seen people that are PlayStation fans that have flat out bought an Xbox just to play Forza Horizon. So let me finish reading the rest of Vertical's question here, and then we'll finish up. All you got to do is look at The Crew 2. Not the most popular game, but on PS, it reaches 3 times the weekly player count of PC and Xbox combined. Sony would be crazy not to swoop up those players. You know what, Vertical 21? As for the GT rumor itself, I have no idea if that's true or not, right? I have not heard it. I have no idea. But I agree with you. If they feel like the potential is there, right? If they feel like they can pull off a high quality game somewhat similar to Forza Horizon in that open world racing space, I think they'd have to have their own wrinkle to it, right? I think a carbon clone copy of Forza Horizon would not be like received that well, because I feel like people would be like, you need to be a little bit more original than essentially copying what Forza Horizon has built. But if they had their own feel, they had their own elements to it, I think it could be big. Yeah, I think it could be very big. I mean, all we got to look at is how big Forza Horizon is, right? There's clearly high demand for a more arcadey, open world racing game, especially compared to the simulation racers. Like, they do well. Gran Turismo still does well. I think the newest Gran Turismo is going to do really well looking at social metrics. But overall, it seems like nowadays in racing games, people kind of prefer a more arcadey feel over simulation, right? If you look at how big Mario Kart is, if you look at how big Forza Horizon is, etc. So it could be big, yeah. If they did something like that, it could be very big. All right, last super chat for now. Thank you so much. That was a ton of super chats. Kellegrim with a 10. Thank you so much. With the large amount of Sony exclusives in the future, do you think we'll see any exclusives that are more geared towards multiplayer? Yes. Seems odd to expect nothing but single-player story blockbusters. Yes, Kellegrim. In fact, we already flat out know of 2. So, first of all, there's this game that's being built. I think it was by Firewalk Studios, if I remember the name right. I could be wrong there, but they just announced this week. They are publishing and working with a studio on a big multiplayer game. Now, it sounds like this is a ways out, okay? Because there was no title for this game. There was no, screenshots or footage of this game. It was literally basically just a PlayStation blog post where they were announcing that, yes, we have this big multiplayer game exclusive coming from this studio. So clearly there's that one. Then also we know for a fact that they are making a multiplayer The Last of Us game. Okay, that is currently what Ben's studio and Naughty Dog are working on jointly together. Sounds like they're co-developing that game via Jason Schreier's report that Bend is doing a lot of help there with Naughty Dog. It sounds like that is going to be much more ambitious than maybe some originally thought, right? If you have 2 studios on that game, it's pretty big, right? You got a big project coming. So we have that on the way as well. I'm guessing, and this is just a guess, that game is 2022. So yeah, there's 2 right off the bat there, Kellegrim. And if some of the rumors are true that Guerrilla Games is also making a first-person shooter, if you look at some of the hiring they've done, it sure looks like they have some kind of first-person shooter game in development. Now, we don't know that for sure. It's just they've hired a lot of talent that worked on first-person shooter games in the past. But if that's a first-person shooter game in development over at Guerrilla, then that's also, you don't make an FPS and not have multiplayer components, okay? So that would be, a potential one there too. Or at least for the most part. I know there are single-player only FPS games, but that's kind of the rarity. Usually if you make an FPS, you also have a multiplayer element. So yes, Kellegrim, definitely. I think Sony's biggest focus is still going to be those single player narrative games, because that is the ones that the PlayStation fan base, they've just proven time and time again that they eat those games up. But it does also appear that Sony is going to pursue multiplayer more than they did on like the PS3 and PS4. Yeah, there's definitely some stuff coming. Benji here with a 10. Holy cow, I think that's your second or third one here, Benji. Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us 2 were selling at record pace. However, long-term sales were not as good as The Witcher 3 versus Red Dead Redemption 2 or Spider-Man for The Last of Us 2. Do you think Take-Two and Sony were disappointed? No. I don't think so. And let me explain why. In terms of Red Dead Redemption 2, they might be slightly, I would say, because it hasn't legged out actually that strongly. Like, it's doing well. But here's the thing. There's no way, unless Take-Two are crazy, okay? And if they have people that were telling them this, they need to hire me. And I'm not saying I'm the best, y'all, but I'm saying if you're paying people that are your own analysts that told you that Red Dead was going to perform at the same level as Grand Theft Auto, you need to hire me, because I can do a better job than that, okay? Red Dead's never going to sell at the level of Grand Theft Auto. It's just not going to have the same appeal. Flat out, it's never going to happen. Grand Theft Auto, first of all, is just an enormous brand. Red Dead's big, but it ain't Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto 5 is literally essentially the best-selling game of all time, right? Or right there, right? It's not number one, but it's right near the top, especially whenever you talk about a $60 game, right? It's very near the top of best-selling of all time. We're talking over 100 million units, right? So Red Dead was never going to perform like Grand Theft Auto. It's an impossibility. Even the atmosphere. You're talking about a Western game focused in the United States Western feel, vibes, right? versus something that's modern. And yes, it's still set in the US, but it has like a lot more universal appeal. It's just never going to happen. However, you could argue, but Red Dead Redemption 2 also didn't like, it hasn't like exactly had nuclearly good legs. It's had like solid legs, but not mind blowing. So you could look at that and say maybe they were slightly disappointed. I don't think Sony was disappointed with The Last of Us Part 2 at all, to be honest with you, because it broke their record ever for launch. And legs aren't as bad as some people think. I'll tell you that right now. They're not mind-blowing, but they're not terrible. Like, you see some people saying this game's had no legs. That's not true. It's had okay-ish legs. But yeah, it's way more front-loaded than Spider-Man. There's just no debate on that. It's even more front-loaded than Ghost of Tsushima was. So, you know, legs haven't been a 10 out of 10 on The Last of Us either, but it made so much money out the gate. I mean, 4 million copies in 3 days. I don't think they're disappointed. No, I don't think so. I really doubt it, especially with how many awards that game has won. Sony seems to be a company that's all about prestige, if you will, right? That's even what the Jeff Ross, and I don't remember if it was Jeff Ross or the other one, but someone from Ben's studio even said like Sony values Metacritic and reviews and stuff like that even higher than sales. And The Last of Us has an insane Metacritic and won tons of awards. So I doubt it. I doubt it. Out of the two, if one of them was seen more as a disappointment than the other, even though it sold more, I would say probably Red Dead, only because I'm sure the expectations for Rockstar are astronomical. So, you know, maybe that one you could argue slightly. Vertical 21 here with another 10 super chat. Thank you so much. Do you think we could see some 2022 game get pivoted into 2023? Not because they need more time, but because 2022 could get too crowded. Suicide Squad versus Gotham Knights would be a prime example. I'll tell you what, Vertical 21, it's definitely possible. Like, it's possible. 2022, y'all, is going to be stacked. I mean, stacked, okay? Crazy stacked. You've already had a bunch of games delayed out of 2021 into 2022, first of all. Second of all, I think 2022 was always going to be a pretty heavy year for releases because it wasn't the first full year of next gen. It was going to be the second full year of next gen. Typically, that first year of a new generation is the one that kind of has the lower output, just because studios are just getting familiar with the new system. They're just moving their teams over to, you know, learning how to deal with it. So typically that first year is going to be lighter than that second year. So you already had that effect. Then you had COVID delaying a whole bunch of stuff out of this year into next year. 2022 potentially could be utterly insane. So Vertical, I would say, yeah, it's not impossible. It is not impossible, especially if you were a game that's probably targeting that like Q3, Q4 for 2022. You might see a few publishers push that off to spring 2023 just to give the game a little bit more time in the oven. Hey, we can just polish it a little bit more for another couple months, and then also maybe avoid some of the chaos that's potentially coming next year. Next year could potentially be insane. So Vertical, you could see that. I would say that's not impossible at all. All right, super chats are cleared for the first time in this chat. Took 40 minutes, but they are cleared. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for all those super chats. Thank you for all of the support. Let me hit some free questions now. I'm going to hit some freebies. Costas. Hi, Benji. Do you think Miles Morales will actually outperform both Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us 2 Lifetime? It's insane to think that a smaller title is selling so well. Also, do you think Uncharted 5 is still a thing? So 2 things here. First of all, I don't know that Miles Morales globally has outsold The Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima, I would say, is very likely, actually, that it's outsold it. The Last of Us, we've had no update on that game, so it's hard to know, right? Here's the only thing we know for sure. At least in the US, Miles has outsold it. If you mean Lifetime in the US, to me, there's not a question. There's not a question. Miles is going to outsell both of them Lifetime for sure. That game has been an astronomical success. Globally, there is some evidence that Miles isn't quite as strong in international markets as it is in the US, but still very strong, right? Still very good. but maybe not at the same level as the US. The original Spider-Man was the same way. I can tell you that right now, that the US made up the biggest share of its sales. Now, it did very well overseas as well, right? It's not saying that it doesn't do good in international markets, just US is its strongest territory. That seems to be the same thing for Miles. And clearly, like in places like Japan, Miles isn't going to touch Ghost of Tsushima. So that becomes a little more interesting globally. But I would say yes for Ghost, right? The Last of Us, we just really need a sales update to know. Like, we've had nothing. I have no idea where that game is, y'all. It could be at 10 million. It could be above that. Like, we just don't know. I don't think it's over 10 million because I think they would announce that if so. But I would say The Last of Us potentially could outsell. Well, I just don't know. That one's one I don't know about, especially when The Last of Us gets a PS5 patch. Like, that has to happen eventually, right? Like, it's crazy to me that it still hasn't been announced, because in 2 months, The Last of Us will be a year old. That was a June release, right? So we're coming up on its year anniversary, and there's still no announcement of a PS5 patch. That's crazy to me, but I would think that that is coming, and that will also boost sales. So yeah, I mean, Miles is going to stay ahead of both in the US, so yeah, I'm almost positive. And in terms of, do I think Uncharted 5 is still a thing, the one Ben Studios was working on, no, I think that is dead. However, will there be an Uncharted 5 or just some sort of new Uncharted game? 100%. Sony just has to figure out who. But that's way too big of an IP to not have a new game for. And also, they're making a movie. So, like, they're trying to get even more eyes on that franchise. So, yes, there will be another Uncharted game. I have no idea who's going to make it, though. All right, we just had another super chat drop. Ralph here with a 25. Thank you so much, Ralph. That's your second super chat. Thank you so much. Nothing has come out so far regarding the rumor implying that Square Enix could be bought. Now that 1 week has passed, how do you look back on it? Was it plausible, and who would benefit the most from buying them? Yeah, Ralph, this is looking like it was not true. Square Enix themselves came out with a statement afterwards and essentially said that it wasn't happening. I know some people were trying to say that, well, just because they say that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not true, because we do see companies lie all the time, just flat out. Like, I say the word lie and I mean it. I mean, technically a company doesn't have to tell you the truth about everything, right? There are certain things they can't lie about. Like, you flat out cannot lie about your earnings, right? Because that is market manipulation to the highest degree. Like, literally, you can't come out and say, if your company made $1 billion, you can't come out and say, hey, we made $5 billion. Like, it's illegal. Okay, you can't do that. Something like this, technically, you're still supposed to tell the truth, but they basically just said, hey, we're not getting bought. Like, it's not going to do anything to pump up numbers. So you could be a little dishonest about this, to be honest. But I don't think they were. Like, I don't think they were lying. Their statement was pretty concrete. So I think this is dead. I think it was just a rumor that was coming out of banks and didn't have much weight to it. Maybe somebody like explored the option in terms of just like sent out a feeler like, hey, Square Enix, would you ever be interested in selling? But I don't think there was ever like an actual offer on the table, put it that way. Now, in terms of, is it plausible? I mean, it's doable. They're not worth that much. I mean, they're worth a lot. Let me be clear. They're worth a lot. But put it this way. They're a lot easier in terms of value-wise to be bought than someone like an EA, right? Or like if a rumor comes out EA is being bought, that's hard to believe just because they're so enormous in terms of market cap. Could it be done? Yes. But dude, that's going to be so much money. It's unbelievable. Square Enix is worth a decent amount, but they're not worth like a mind-blowing amount. So, yeah, it's plausible someone could buy them, but like I said on the last chat, if you weren't here, I don't think they're that attractive compared to some other publishers, so I don't think we're going to see it happen. And in terms of who would benefit the most from buying them, to me, there's no doubt it's Sony. To me, there's just no doubt. Sony and them seem to have the best relationship of the bunch. I actually think Microsoft's a bad fit. for this. If I was Microsoft, I wouldn't encourage them to buy Square Enix because of a couple reasons. First of all, yeah, it's great to get that Japanese support, but we have years and years and years and years of evidence that shows that Japanese games just do not sell as strong on Xbox as they do on PlayStation and Nintendo. It's just a fact, okay? It's an unarguable fact. Japanese games, even though they do have some place on Xbox and they can sell some copies, they're not going to sell at the same level as they are on PlayStation and Nintendo. And yes, you would boost your Game Pass from that, but I don't think you would boost it enough to where you'd be like, put it this way, to be worth that investment. Sony, however, if you could lock up all future Square Enix content to your platform, A, proven track record of selling on PlayStation, B, you completely cut Microsoft out of that support from them. Yeah, if anyone did it, it's going to be PlayStation. That would be the best result. Nintendo, you could also argue, would be okay. However, the main reason I lean Sony over Nintendo is that Square Enix, we see it time and time again, they really love to like push visuals. They love to like push technology super far. I mean, basically every new Final Fantasy game when it comes out is like cutting edge visuals. You know, they're pushing things as far as they possibly can go. So Nintendo hardware wise isn't like, I think, as attractive to them. Clearly they have big sellers on Nintendo, but I think Sony's a better fit than Nintendo. Personally. All right. I can only go for about 10 to 15 more minutes, y'all, and then I got to go and get ready for work. So 10 to 15 more minutes of chat, and then I got to bounce. Thank you for all these super chats, everyone. Make sure you hit the like button if you haven't yet, because it helps my YouTube algorithm. It helps people discover my channel and discover my videos. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've had a decent boost again lately for subscribers. There was about a month where I was like completely flatlined. I was having no growth at all on YouTube, which isn't the end of the world, right? I consider what I do here on YouTube more like fun. Like, I just really enjoy doing this. Like, my Twitter is actually my bigger focus on growth, because I feel like my Twitter has a better odds of getting me job potential. Because as you all know, you know, my eventual goal is to work in the video game industry in some form, you know, whether that's going to be an analyst for a company or whether that's going to be, you know, covering games for media in terms of like more focused on the business side of things, but like reporting on that for a company. Like, that's my goal. So I feel like my Twitter's my better path to getting that sort of notice. But of course, you always want to see growth. So it's been nice to see some YouTube subscriber growth lately. Thank you, everybody. All right, Housemarque Ford. Hey, Benji, hope you're doing good. I am doing great, Housemarque Ford. I hope you're doing well as well. Thoughts on the Starfield, Halo, Forza Horizon 5, Age of Empires 4 rumor for Xbox's E3? Can an event focused on these four satisfy you, or do you want an event with lots of small trailers and games, a less focused event? Here's what I'll say. I completely believe that rumor in terms of that's going to be the focus. Like, that to me makes perfect sense. First of all, clearly Halo Infinite's going to get a huge blowout. We haven't seen that game in terms of gameplay in a very long time, okay? By the time we see it, it's basically going to be a year since we've seen Halo Infinite, right? Yes, we've seen like screenshots and artwork and stuff since then, but we haven't seen like a big blowout on Halo Infinite in basically a year. And I feel like after the way the last footage was received, they're going to want to put a really strong foot forward on Halo, and clearly that's going to be a giant game for them this year. So Infinite getting a huge focus makes perfect sense. Starfield, yeah, I think Starfield's at this E3, 100%. Whether it releases this year or not, I know there's evidence that it might. I know for a fact that lots of insider people have hinted that, or outright said, that Microsoft and Bethesda's goal was to get it out in 2021. I'm not positive that's going to happen. I could see a 2022 delay, but at the very least, I think Starfield's probably going to be early 2022. So I do think we see Starfield finally here. So that makes sense. Age of Empires 4 is coming out this year at the end of the year. So of course that's going to get a focus. And all of the rumors are saying that Forza Horizon 5 isn't far away either, potentially as soon as this year. Again, not sure if I buy that, considering it's not even announced yet, but who knows. So those being the four games that are the focus, yeah, that's probably right. Like that all adds up. However, they do need more than that, right? You need more than that. If they come out with only that, I don't think that will be enough, honestly. In terms of like crazy buzz and crazy momentum, Starfield's going to hit huge if it looks good. Halo's going to hit huge if it looks good. Forza Horizon's going to hit huge if it looks good. But those are all known commodities. Part of the thing that gets you a ton of hype and attention is surprises. They need a surprise, right? I think they need to show a new IP. So Compulsion Games, maybe their new IP's ready to show, something like that. But they need a surprise. They need something that's like, oh, I did not see this coming at all. The Unknown, hey bro, I know you don't want the articles, but you gotta tell us about Silent Hill. Is it a PlayStation game or an Xbox game? Give us something, man. All I'll say about Silent Hill is the same thing I've been saying. Again, I do not know that the information I have is true. Okay? I haven't heard it from enough people. B, if what I heard is true, it's not what people think it is. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. Sorry, I literally can't say more than that. I literally can't. Cannot do it. Listen, this one's way too I'm not 100% positive what I know is true. And then B, if it is true, this one's not one I want to mess with the source on, okay? I'll just put it that way. If what I heard is true, there's not very many people that are going to know that information. So that could get somebody in trouble. So no. All right. I think we just had a super chat drop. Two of them right here towards the end. I am sorry to the free questions, y'all. You got you got wiped out today on these super chats. Listen, everyone that's in the chat, always dropping the free questions. Dude, I appreciate it so much, okay? I just want to make that very clear. But the super chats are off the chain, right? It's hard for me. You know what I need to do? I need to one day like have a 2-hour stream. I know that's a long time, and I know not everyone would stick around for 2 hours. But like when I do these hour streams, I leave so many questions unanswered. So I need to do that. I need to set aside one day where I just go for like 2 hours. Dangerman 1337 here with a 2 super chat. Could Battlefield 2021 being next gen be beneficial? If it's going to have a fairly lengthy life cycle, say next Battlefield after it is in 2025, I mean, if it costs like $40+ million to develop last gen versions to do a Black Ops 3 level downgrade, it whacks up costs post-launch, and some cross-gen games not well on last gen like Miles Morales and Outriders, would Battlefield 6 sell that well on last gen? Dangerman, this is one that makes sense to me to be next gen only, just like you're saying, if this game is going to be supported for a long period of time, which I think it is. The vibe I get, and from some of the rumors that have been floating around, is that this Battlefield game is essentially kind of like a reboot for the franchise, and also is going to be like a platform. And what I mean by that's not necessarily, oh, you're not going to get a new Battlefield in, for 5 or 10 years. I'm not necessarily saying that, but yeah, I could see like a scenario where this Battlefield game is the only Battlefield game for like 3 years, because that's what just happened with this one, right? There was a period of time where EA was pushing DICE to get a new Battlefield out essentially like every 2 years. And I think if I remember right, there was even a stretch of time where it was every year whenever they went to Hardline. I think Hardline squeezed in yearly. I could be wrong, but didn't that hit 1 year after one of the other Battlefields? But either way, put it this way. They were pushing DICE to get Battlefield out at the very least like every 2 years. This one's had a 3-year development cycle, so clearly they're going to give it more time, and I feel like they might be moving in that direction. Here's the deal. If this game's going to be around for 3 years, dropping last gen just makes sense, right? You don't want to be supporting a game it comes out in 2021. If it was still on last gen, you'd have to support that 2022, 2023, 2024. Do you really want to be supporting that game all the way through 2024 on last gen consoles? To me, that makes no sense, right? So I think that's why this game probably is next gen only, because I think it's going to be around for a little bit, and EA and DICE looked at it and they were probably like, listen, we don't want to sit there and be supporting a last gen console that long. I can see supporting it for another year or two, but 3+ years, it just makes no sense. That could mean it could still be cross-gen, right? I'm not telling you that I know for sure it's next-gen only, but all reports seem to be it's next-gen only in PC. Some kind comments here I'm seeing from Dreamwalker saying Benji would make a great community manager. Thank you so much. Dreamwalker, why didn't you get a Returnal code, bro? What's wrong with publishers? Yeah, they don't really give me codes yet, you know? I will say that's one thing that's kind of surprised me, is that I haven't had more people reach out with that kind of stuff, just because on Twitter I am starting to get a decent sized following, right? I think I'm over 21,000 now. So but they just don't. Yeah, I don't have publishers reach out and offer codes or anything like that, really. It's happened before. Gearbox, for example, were really kind and gave me a copy of Godfall. But yeah, not much. But listen, I buy so many games, it's not really that big of a deal. But I mean, it would be cool to be able to cover games before release more. But yeah, publishers just are not there with me yet on that. But maybe eventually it could happen. Highlander001 with a 10 super chat here. What are your thoughts about the rumor Metal Gear Solid and other IPs are going to Xbox? Ooh, that to me seems unlikely. I mean, Metal Gear Solid being an exclusive game just doesn't feel right, does it? Like, I don't know. That to me feels like a multi-platform game or a PlayStation exclusive, right? Like, its history's on PlayStation, so putting that just on Xbox, man, that feels weird to me. I don't want to say it's impossible, because we're in wild times, y'all. We all see this, right? The video game industry literally hits us with something we never saw coming, it seems like every other week now, right? Who could have told you that, you would see a PlayStation Studios developed game like MLB The show up on Xbox before that announcement was made, right? You even had the MLB The Show official Twitter account reply to someone a couple years ago when they asked, when will we see this on Xbox? And they basically said never. They said, we're a game made for PlayStation. So who could have saw that coming? Who could have seen Bethesda being bought by Xbox? Like, crazy stuff happens all the time. But man, Metal Gear Solid going to Xbox just feels super weird to me. So again, not impossible, but man, that would be shocking to me. That would be shocking. Okay. I'm going to push this, okay? I'm going to push this for a few more minutes. I want to hit a few more questions. I'm pushing it. Let's go. Let's push a few more. But we're going to come down to the wire. We're close. Benji squeezing in a super chat here right at the end. Holy cow. Super chats are ridiculous today. Thank you so much, everyone. It's insane. Benji with a 5. Hi, Benji. Is Resident Evil turning into a yearly franchise for Capcom? Yes. Resident Evil 2 in 2019. Resident Evil 3 in 2020. Village in 2021. Then Revelations 3 or Outbreak or whatever it's called. Resident Evil 4 Remake. Resident Evil 9. Yes, Benji, right now Resident Evil is on a yearly run. The question is, how long can they keep that up, right? Like, when does franchise burnout and franchise fatigue happen? I'll tell you what, I'm a little worried about that, okay? Anytime a property goes yearly, ooh, I worry about that. I worry about it, okay? It can be successful. Call of Duty is insane. Every single year. They just passed 400 million units sold for the Call of Duty franchise. Crazy. They somehow pull it off. Assassin's Creed, they managed to pull it off for a while, but even them eventually had to pull back from that because they started to see sales slowing and also like Metacritic and reviews slowing and fan interest slowing, so they had to slow that pace down. How long can you pump out a Resident Evil every single year before people just get sick of it, right? I worry about that, but at least for the next several years, it very much looks like Resident Evil's going yearly. Yeah. I mean, it really looks like it. First of all, like you said, Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, and now Village. That's 3 consecutive years. Then we know for a fact that there is that game that's called Resident Evil, like, Outrage or something like that, that's in development because it straight up leaked out of Capcom themselves. Like, we know for a fact that game is real. Then you have Resident Evil 4 Remake, which again, we know is real. And then you have Resident Evil 9 apparently is already in production, okay? Obviously, that would be early-ish, right? It'd be pre-production because that game is, I think, supposed to be like 2 or 3 years away. But it's already in development. Like, they are already putting resources on Resident Evil 9. So they need to be careful. Capcom need to be very careful because this could backfire very quickly. For now, they're good. Right now, they're in a really good spot. I'm not knocking it. I think Village is going to be amazing, y'all. But they need to be careful with this, okay? Very careful. Highlander001 with a 5 super chat. You have been mentioned by name in the RDX podcast. Think you should join them. Well, thank you so much, Highlander. I'd love to be on the RDX podcast. I'm very fortunate. You know, I have a lot of people that have been really amazing in supporting me. The people at Kind of Funny have been awesome. They've mentioned my content on Kind of Funny multiple times. Colin Moriarty and Sacred Symbols, they've been awesome. They've mentioned me several times on there. Listen, my experience for the vast majority of people, period, I think people are mostly really great, okay? Like, seriously, there's gonna be some jerks. There's going to be some trolls. That's literally impossible to avoid. So I'm not going to tell you everyone's perfect, but I mean, just look at our chat, right? I mean, there's so much positivity. Most people out there, most of them are good people. So yeah, I mean, I'd totally be down to be on the RDX podcast. Yeah. I can't say any names yet, but I do have a couple podcast appearances coming up that I'm pretty excited about. So I'll be able to announce those soon. But yep, I'm going to be on some podcasts soon. But if the RDX, you know, if they ever reach out to me, yeah, I'd love to be on. Okie dokie. I'm going to hit 2 more questions. 2, and then I got to go, okay? 2 questions. And then I got to bounce. So don't do any more super chats, okay? Thank you so much for all the super chats, y'all. But no more super chats. I just want to hit 2 questions and bounce. Let's see. Is there a good Game Pass question? We didn't hit a ton of Game Pass stuff today. We hit a little bit, but not a ton. Here's one. Hi, Benji. I think Game Pass can hit 35 million if Halo and Starfield come out by the end of the year. 35 is pretty big. 35's pretty big, RRD. I'm not going to tell you it's impossible because look at the rate we just saw, right? It was over 1 million new subs per month since January, if that 23 million number is correct, which again, I feel that Jez is very reliable and a good source of information. So I believe him. I don't have that number myself. I can't tell you that. I have not confirmed that number. It's not from Microsoft. So let's take that with a slight grain of sand. But I believe Jez. And so their pace is really good right now. But that was with Outriders and MLB The Show, right? They got all that attention for some AAA games on day one. The only thing I feel confident predicting RRD is I do think we see 30 plus million by the end of the year, right? I do think they can hit 30 million subscribers by the end of December. 35, who knows? It could happen, right? I would say in a best case scenario, Halo comes out and it's really freaking awesome. Starfield comes out and it's really freaking good. You could see those kind of numbers, but they're gonna need some good stuff, right? Because here's the thing. Are they always going to have over 1 million new subs every single month? I would say no, unless they consistently have some of these big third-party games hitting day one. If they really start doing that consistently, like it's not just MLB and Outriders and then you go 3 or 4 months without another one, but if we see this like every month, every other month, there's a big third-party day one game, okay, things start to get a little spicy, but at the very least, they should be able to hit 30 million. Yeah, they should. I think so. And then one more. I'm pulling one more question. Oh, Ryan Tolu said, good morning. Good to see you, Ryan. I haven't seen you in chat a little bit. Good to see you. Okay, here's a great one from JCat. I'm going to end with JCat. I am so sorry to all the questions I missed today. I apologize. I'm so sorry. There was so many freaking good questions today. It's been another amazing chat. As you all know, these chats are literally the highlight of my week. They're my favorite thing I do. I like doing this more than I like doing Twitter. And y'all see me on Twitter. I love doing Twitter, but I love this. The interaction is awesome. Okay, JCat. At Benji-Sales. With massive growth of Game Pass, is Microsoft really reliant on their first-party games being critically successful too? Great question. It seems like Game Pass is doing well anyway. Yeah, you know, that's a great point, JCat. Here's what I would say. They are flat out less reliant than, like, I would say PlayStation or Nintendo are. And here's the main key why. Their games, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, are free to access. Now, of course, I'm saying free with quotations. You still got to pay that subscription fee. However, if you are subscribed, you can just click any of their first-party games and play it, and you're not paying anything extra. That, no matter what, is going to lower the barrier of entry for people. Whereas if you're going out and you're flat out spending $60 or $70 per game, that quality suddenly becomes much more important because you have to convince people to part with $60 to $70 out of their own pocket for that one experience. Now, does that mean I think Microsoft is just like, we don't even care how our games review? Who cares if they all review bad? Whatever, just pump them out? No. Clearly, Microsoft does want to be competitive. They want their games. I mean, put it this way. Microsoft wants to have some Game of the Year nominated stuff, right? Like, they're in that phase right now where really they're not having many Game of the Year nominated titles, right? You see PlayStation put up a bunch. You see Nintendo put up a bunch. Of course, you see a ton from third parties. And it's not unheard of for Microsoft, but it is pretty rare. I'm sure that they want to be in that space. However, that said, they're less volatile for their games in terms of that critical reception because of Game Pass. Game Pass just makes it so much easier to access their games. You don't have to convince a consumer as hard to buy it because if they have Game Pass, they can just access it, etc. So, is it a big deal to have critically successful games? Yes. Is it as important for them as Sony and Nintendo? I would say no. Okay, everyone. I got to call the chat there. Thank you for an amazing chat. I would go longer if I could, but I literally have to get ready now and then go to work tonight. Thank you so much, everyone. I missed a billion questions. I know, and I'm so sorry. We will be back next week, okay? We're going to come back next week. I do one of these every single week. Who knows? Maybe I need to start doing 2 a week. The only reason I haven't done 2 a week is I've been like, will we have enough to talk about? Will we have enough interest to be doing 2 of these every single week? Let me know, okay? Let me know down in the comments or hit me up on Twitter if you want to see me start doing 2 of these a week so that maybe each individual chat's not as big, but I can get to more questions and get to more discussion. So if you want to see 2 Benji-Sales streams a week, let me know. Otherwise, hit like to help the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to me on YouTube so that you get notifications for when I go live. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already. Thank you for being amazing, everyone. Thank you for being so kind. Thank you for all the engagement. And I will see you all soon. Stay safe. Play some video games. And I will see you either on Twitter or YouTube, everyone. Bye. Have a great day. Bye, 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 bye.